Hey, my friend, I'm Marcus here with SpeakerMindMethod.com. So, there are two places in particular that, at least here in America, a lot of people who stutter completely avoid, and it is an absolutely terrifying place. Both of these places are terrifying places to go. And these two places are Starbucks and Chick-fil-A. And the reason that Starbucks and Chick-fil-A are often avoided by people who stutter is because they do one particular thing when they take your order, and that is they ask for your name. And if you're watching this video based on, you clicked on the title, which has to do with saying your name and being able to not stutter when saying your name, then you may relate to this, especially if you live in America or you just live in a place where if you go to a restaurant, they ask for your name. It's a very terrifying thing. And so today what I want to give you is a 3-step system for you so that every time you go into Chick-fil-A, first of all, you'll actually go to Chick-fil-A if that's where you want to go. You'll actually go to Starbucks. You'll no longer avoid these places. That's the goal, and that is what I'm here to help you with in this video. And this, of course, applies to not only those instances. If you just have trouble introducing yourself, that is very common as well. So any instance or any time throughout your life and throughout your days where you feel like you get anxious about saying your name, this video is for you, and I'm going to help you with it. By the way, if this is the first video where you stumbled across my channel, perhaps this is the very first one that you're seeing of me, then I want to make sure that you have access to a gift. It's my free Stop Stuttering workshop. So I'll leave a link in the description below. It's a 45+ minute training. It gives you a daily routine. It gives you a plan. It gives you a system. It gives you everything you need to start developing fluency today. And it's 100% free. So if you want to learn to overcome stuttering like I did, I stuttered for many years. If you want to learn what I've learned and also what I teach my clients to do and how I help them overcome stuttering, then go check out this free workshop. All right, now let's go ahead and let's dive into the 3-step system for learning how to say your name fluently and free of anxiety and stress. Let's go. So step 1 for saying your name fluently is you need to give yourself multiple options. You need to give yourself multiple ways of saying things. And this applies to your name. Now, I'm not suggesting that you should change your name or have a pseudonym for when you feel like you're going to block, you switch to a fake name. I've talked to clients and I've talked to people who they have done that in the past. And it's not exactly something that I recommend. I think it's better to actually find other ways and actually say your real name. But there are ways in which you can approach this where you're still saying your actual name, but there's more than one way of doing it. And to give you an example, one of my favorite ways of responding to the question, and what's the name for the order? If that's the question, right? If I'm in Starbucks, instead of just responding with Marcus, I like to say, yeah, it's Marcus. And that just flows very smoothly. It allows me to get those two, yeah, it's Marcus. It allows me to get my vocal cords flowing without feeling like I have to only say Marcus. And that's my only option. Because for a lot of you guys, if this is what you've been struggling with, you go into that type of situation and you have already decided beforehand that you are going to only say your name. And you give yourself one option. That's not a smart strategy. You want to stop limiting yourself in that way, and instead you want to practice different ways of saying something. Or to put it more accurately, you simply just want to add some words, add some introductory words before you actually get to your name. And so again, if you're in a drive-through or that type of situation, I like to use, yeah, it's Marcus. Yeah, I'm Marcus. That can work, right? But what about if you are in a meet and greet situation or you're just introducing yourself to somebody? In that scenario, you actually have even more flexibility because now you can be like, it's very nice to meet you. I'm Marcus. Hi there. What's your name? I don't think we've met. I'm Marcus. You can really stretch it out to kind of get the sentence started. And this is just something that I want you to practice. It's very, very valuable for you to have different ways of saying something because you do not want to get stuck into pulling into a Starbucks drive-thru or going up to meet somebody new when you're about to introduce yourself and only having one way of saying it. You want to give yourself multiple options. And not only is this like, if one way doesn't work, you at least have other options to choose from, right? It's not just that. This also relaxes your mind. This will help you to alleviate some of that anticipation or that anticipatory anxiety as you're going into it. Because if you go into any type of situation where you need to say your name and you've decided that there's only one way to approach it, then you're just boxing yourself in and you are upping the chances that you will block or stutter when you say your name. So give yourself multiple options, use introductory words, find different ways of saying things, especially early on. And then as you improve more and more week over week, month over month, then you can just start to not even care about it. That's the point that I've reached, right? I still use introductory words, sometimes just out of habit, sometimes because it actually sounds better and it just flows off the tongue better and just to my ears sounds better to use introductory words instead of just being like Marcus, yeah, it's Marcus. That sounds better. But I don't think about it. I say it however I feel like saying it in the moment, but I do know if I am having a bad day, which still happens, I can always access a different way of saying it, or I can pause, restart, all of that stuff. So there are always other options out there. So don't allow yourself to get stuck in this tunnel of only having one way of saying your name. Okay? All right, now step 2 in this system is you want to practice what I call the passive exhale technique. Well, first off, what is a passive exhale technique? Well, I'm going to explain it to you. And I do want to first give credit to where credit is due here, because Michael Williams, who is an online speech coach, I first learned from him, or not this exact thing, but it's more derived from him. And his technique is called, I think he calls it the passive airflow technique. And so it's somewhat derived from that, but not entirely. And so it is still, it has details to it that is differently. But I did still want to give some credit there to Michael and all of the amazing work that he's done. And so here is what it is. So a passive exhale technique, or the passive exhaled breath. Let me first show you what it's not. So this is what it's not. So when you're talking like this, this is not the passive exhale technique. What is happening there, the way that I just talked, the airflow is doing this, talking. The vocal cords are just slamming together. They're just completely blocking off the airflow, and it's causing lots of tension, causing lots of friction, and it's not allowing you to get to that smooth place. Versus the opposite of that, if we use this passive exhale technique, it would sound more like this. So if I really lean into the passive exhale technique, whenever I am not breathing in, I am letting the airflow always be at the very minimum, almost at a slight standstill, but it's still kind of naturally seeping out. And I'm giving you, as I'm talking here, I'm showing you what it kind of sounds like. I'm slightly exaggerating it here so you can hear it. But what I'm doing here is I'm never allowing my vocal cords to slam. I'm not allowing my vocal cords to do that. Now, for many of you, this is going to be very difficult at first because it's a very deeply ingrained habit. You've been doing this likely for years or even decades. So don't expect you to beat this overnight, but you do want to start working on this to breaking that habit of closing off your cords, of restricting the airflow. And just to bring some more clarity onto exactly what's happening here, it's not that you are pushing the air out in any way. It's just that you are never allowing the cords to slam together, even when you're in between words, right? Because naturally, we don't always have our words lined up to where they follow in succession right behind the next one. Sometimes we need some time to think about what the next word is going to be. And what I'm doing there is in between those words, in those gaps, it's okay if there are gaps there, but it's not okay if the chords slam together and the airflow is completely like that. We don't want that to happen. Instead, what is happening is it's almost this meditative like relaxation where if you breathe in and then you hold the breath, but you don't actually close the cords, you don't constrict the breath, you just hold it and just let it slowly kind of It's very meditative in nature. You're not pushing the air out, but you're not allowing that airflow to be constricted. It is always in this tilt, as I like to say. It feels like there's this pull of gravity that you are kind of giving into, this downward just tilt of the airflow. It's always seeping out, unless I'm breathing in to get the next breath. Outside of that, the air is always moving out, even between words. I'm not doing that. So now you might be asking, okay, what does this have to do with saying my name exactly? Because perhaps you can see how this could apply just overall with stuttering in general and alleviating it and starting to improve on your fluency. But how does this actually apply to saying my name fluently? And what I'll say to that is, yeah, it's by no means particular to just saying your name, but this is an important skill for you to learn, because if you go through a Starbucks drive-thru and they ask for your name, if you have the habit of doing that, like right off the bat, they ask for your name, what happens? Your vocal, right? It's that type of thing that so easily happens. It's that fight or flight response that your body is engaged in. And now, how do you break this habit? Because this is the big culprit. If you can go into a Starbucks drive-thru and you can keep this passive exhale where you're breathing in and you are never allowing yourself. So if you're ordering, like, yes, could I have a 16-ounce mocha with no whipped cream, please? Something like that. Notice how the airflow, there's always the tilt. There's always the tilt. I'm not ever doing that. It's always the tilt there. And that allows me to speak much more smoothly as well. But then if you can get into the flow of that, then when it comes time to say your name, you can keep that passive exhale. You're never allowing your chords to slam together. And then if you want to say just your name straight up, Marcus, right? Because of that relaxed passive exhale, just Marcus. Yeah, it's Marcus. There's so much power in this. So this is going to take some practice. Again, this is a habit that you have probably been engaged in, the closing it up. You've probably been doing that for years and even decades. So it's going to take some time to clear that up and to break that habit. But when you start experiencing that calmness and that relaxed breath and that just passive slight exhale, that almost very meditative state, even if it's between words, right? It's such a powerful thing. And one quick bonus thing here before we move on to the third step is one of the things that I like to combine with the passive exhale is consciously relaxing your feet. This one sounds a little weird, but it's amazing how tight and tense our feet often get. And so one of the ways that you can help you reach that place of that passive exhale is, especially if you're in the moment and you feel kind of anxious and overwhelmed, put your focus in these two areas. Relax your feet to where you even feel that meditation, like if you meditate very deeply and you just let your body relax, you feel that little tingle. Try to get as much of that as you can in your feet, and then also just let that passive exhale happen. Don't block off the airflow. And if you combine those two things, it's going to make your life so much easier if you can turn it into a habit. And you can, it's just going to take some time. So make sure that you practice this stuff. And this is, by the way, where my workshop again comes in. It's so helpful to kind of get you into that practice groove, into that practice routine. Again, the link is in the description below. And that leans right into step 3 here, which is you need to develop a plan for relieving anxiety and anticipation. So much of overcoming stuttering is overcoming the anxiety and the anticipation that happens before we actually stutter, right? And I know you've experienced this. This is a huge part of the reason that we end up stuttering is because not just physically the habit of stuttering, but also the mental habits, the emotional habits of becoming very anxious, of anticipating, of thinking ahead, looking ahead, worrying about, I'm going to have to introduce myself to these people. Or if I'm in the car and I'm driving and my friends ask, hey, can we stop at Chick-fil-A? And you find some BS excuse for not wanting to do it, or maybe ordering online. I had somebody mention that once, right? It's this anticipation, it's this anxiety, and we need to have a plan in place so that we can start to rectify it, so that we can start to ameliorate the situation. Of course, use the first 2 steps that I gave you. Incredibly helpful, incredibly valuable stuff. Use the first 2 tools, but also make sure that you focus on practicing in a way or developing a system, putting yourself through a system that helps you with your anxiety and your anticipation. And you're, of course, free to choose whichever path you like. Even something like a meditation practice combined with using steps 1 and 2, like I've shared with you, using a daily meditation practice to kind of get your mind in a good place so that you can relieve some of that anticipation and anxiety, that might be the perfect fit for you, even just that. And of course, as I've mentioned before in this video, I have my free Stop Stuttering workshop. That's the thing I recommend every single person who watches these videos goes and watches that. And then, of course, beyond that, I also have one-on-one coaching programs where we go really personal, really customized, really in-depth into your specific struggles and helping you achieve your specific dreams when it comes to your speech and also your life. So you have steps 1 and 2, right? Which are very actionable steps. You can implement those starting today. So go do that. But what I'm really curious about and what I want you to answer, a question I want you to answer is, what is your plan going to be for developing a system to help you when it comes to anticipation and speech anxiety? Maybe it's meditation, maybe it's going and watching my free workshop, maybe it's enrolling in my premium one-on-one coaching program, or maybe it's with another coach. That's fine too. Whatever gets you results, right? Whatever gets you to a place where you are starting to speak more fluently so that you can start to live the life that you want. That's what I always preach here at Speak Your Mind Method is it's not about some cure. It's not about never ever stuttering again. Instead, what this whole process is about reaching a point where your speech doesn't keep you from doing anything you want to do. You're no longer anxious about it. You no longer anticipate. You no longer stay at home ever because you are avoiding a particular situation because of your speech. You're able to go on dates and never worry about speech. These are all things that are 100% true that happened to me. I used to be anxious. I used to avoid dating. All of these things. And now I honestly can roll out of bed any given morning, any given day. I'm never anxious about my speech. I'm anxious about other things. You know, life happens, of course, but it's a pretty great feeling to not have to deal with that speech anxiety anymore. And I want you to experience that same feeling. So once again, what I recommend you do is do something that is 100% free, and it's my free Stop Stuttering workshop. This is a 45+ minute training where if you truly apply this, if you go and watch everything with complete close attention and you go and implement the plan and the system, you download the PDF and then you go and implement the daily routine, you practice, you do everything that is asked of you. If you do all of that, you could achieve 90% fluency in as little as 6 weeks. It's incredibly powerful. I should be charging at least $200 for this, but I'm giving it away for free to everyone who watches these videos. All right, so I'm going to leave a link in the description below. You can find it there, so be sure to check it out before you leave. All right, thank you so much for watching this video, my friend. I will see you next time.